Welcome back to the lab. I said it was finished, didn't I? And it was actually really good. It was going really well. There were no fluid leaks, there was no smoke, there were no funny noises, everything was working. The car was great. Took the owner for a drive, everything was great. Showed it, opened the bonnet, look, see, motor's still there, it didn't fall out. Everything's great. Drove away. The owner drove it around for some time, 100 Ks or something like that. So that's actually a long way for a 300ZX before it breaks down again. So the alternator, the old mates down in New Plymouth, yeah, I've narrowed the search range for people that shouldn't work on 300ZXs down a little bit for you guys. Stay away from workshops in New Plymouth. One workshop in particular, and you'll have to figure that out yourself. But they put a new alternator on that car for some reason. I do not know why. I'm assuming because they thought it was faulty. Or maybe it was faulty. It should not have been faulty. It was one that I had put on during its time with me, so it didn't have that many miles on it, and it wasn't that old calendar period wise, so unless someone had done something to break it or damage it, or maybe it had a little bit of oil on it and they're dickheads and don't know that that's not the end of the world for an alternator and they replaced it, or I'm not sure. They put a new alternator on it anyway. And I don't know why it failed. They did such an awesome job of absolutely everything else they did on the car. There were no faults with anything anywhere. It was all perfect. And then weirdly, the alternator just fails. Oh my gosh, I'm just so shocked. So we've put a new alternator, another new alternator on it, and this one works perfectly, and it's going to work perfectly. It's quite simple. I can't understand why. No, it was junk. That's why it failed. The one they put in there was junk. But anyway, there's some other things to do. The exhaust system. Owner's description of it, I'm quite happy with it personally, and I'll say that. She knows that. I don't think it's actually anything horribly wrong with it. The owner's description is there's a drone that she doesn't like at a certain RPM range, a certain load and speed. There's a drone in the exhaust system. For me personally, with this type of car, with this extent of modifications and all that sort of car, it's actually, in my opinion, it's fine, but I get it. She doesn't like it doing what it's doing, and so we need to try and resolve it, change it, fix it, make it go away, shift it to another area, something. It's tricky to get a look in there and see that these are still packed. That's now moved and rubbing on there again. What a frustrating. But I could figure something out and see if we've still got enough packing in here. We may have blown it all out over the years. It doesn't sound like it. These, I made these back in the day. No, I bought these back in the day from someone else, but I do make them now. So I could also check that these haven't lost their packing material from inside them, which does happen. They end up basically hollow, not really doing what they're supposed to do, which is what's happened with the March, but we don't care. That can make as much noise as it likes, and we're all good. It's never going to break the track noise limits. Maybe we should straight pipe it for the last round of Pukekohe and be one of the last cars to get kicked off the track for noise. That'd be a great idea, seeing as some of the people near the track complain about noise all the time. Make a lot of noise on the way out. That's an excellent idea. Anyway, so those are probably okay. These are probably okay. I wish I could check on them anyway, just in case. There's enough room here to bang in another couple of resonators here. That's about the only place left. Without doing extensive reworking of the entire exhaust system, starting basically all over again, we can put a couple in here. They end up about 400 long, which is maybe a little bit longer than these, I believe. I'd have to measure them and check. Personally, I think most of the noise that's in the car that we're hearing that she's not happy with is probably coming from the size, the sheer size of these pipes at the front, and the noise actually coming through the tube and into the floor. But we'll give it a crack and we'll see where we're at. So anyway, over here is some stuff and things. I start with some, nearly knocked that on the floor, didn't I? Clumsy, clumsy. I start with some 4-inch stainless steel tube. I start with some 2.5-inch to 4-inch cones. Put one of those on each end like that. Yeah, make a pair. I figure out how long it's going to be. Let's see if I can do this one-handed or drop the whole lot. There we go. There to there. It's all going to fall over though, isn't it? It's very sketchy. There to there. And I get a distance on the inside of here, inside of this tube, from there to the same point on the other end, that our perforated tube will go in. Cut that to length, and then it's only welded at one end. Because the stainless steel expands and contracts at a different rate to the perforated tube. If you weld it at both ends, it just cracks anyway, and then it makes a whole shitload of noise. But if you have one end so that it can move in and out as required based on the heat, it doesn't make all that noise. And then we have some, inside this bag here, some fiberglass packing that I put in there at a certain stage during the assembly, and that's our fiberglass filled stainless steel resonators that we can polish if we want, may or may not, and they're going to go on the car, and fingers crossed it'll make the noises go away so that it doesn't make a droney drone. It's actually, it's fine, but we'll make it more finer. Yeah, but it doesn't use purge gas in it. It's fine. It's totally fine. As Al from the Skid Factory says, it's not a dairy factory. It's all good. So if you don't burn right through it, it's not really a problem either. That's done. I have not actually welded either end just yet. It's sitting there purely from friction, from tension. This is a trick that I use, and I'm not going to show you, because if you want these, you're going to have to buy them from me. But they're, like I say, basically done. I've got to weld one end or the other. Sometimes I leave this proud enough so that when you weld the pipe onto the end, that attaches one end of this anyway. I haven't done that on these ones, but sometimes I do that. So they're ready to go. If that's not, it's alright. You shouldn't kill me too much. Walk over here. The theory is it's supposed to fit just there like that. It pretty much will. We'll cut out that joint and we'll have it just a bit short of that flange there so we can still get the bolts on, etc. And that may or may not shut it up a little bit. We'll find out. We'll get it on the car. I'll do that tomorrow. We've run out of today. Kind of, sort of. I don't want to make too much noise late at night, so I won't get it finished today. So I'll do it tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. What a lazy bugger. Look at that. Look at the time. A bit late in the day. Anyway, so. Now, all we have to do is just, using that word very incorrectly, just cut the exhaust system and put a couple of resonators in. Seems like an easy thing to do. And at first glance, you think, oh, you're just going to cut the pipe here and cut the pipe here somewhere, wherever it is. Those resonators on the bench over there are exactly 400 millimeters long. So if you do it exactly 400 from wherever to wherever and stick them in there, job done. She's good, except it'll be rubbish because these cars are not very high off the ground. There's not a hell of a lot of ground clearance, and the center line that's been created for this exhaust system hasn't really taken into account that we're going to put a 4-inch section, bit of pipe through here instead of 2.5. So although we will have sufficient clearance from subframe and the roll bar, etc., and the diff cradle under there, that's all going to be fine. We're going to end up with an exhaust system that's 3/4 of an inch, I guess it is, something like that, isn't it? There's 1.5 inches difference between two. Yes, 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch lower here than what it is at the moment, and that's going to cause clearance issues when you try and drive the car. It's right in the middle of the car, it's going to smash into everything that you come across on the road. It's going to be too low. This thing's only this far off the ground when you're driving around. Now you're going to make it this far off the ground. That will be hopeless. So as simple as it sounds and seems, looks, and people will think that we're just going to cut these pipes and put the resonators in, we can't do that. We have to actually cut the pipes way back here and probably around here somewhere, or maybe there, so that we can reclock everything to actually tuck them up at the front here a bit higher, because these are on an angle downhill. In mind, I can do it. Let's get on with it. Just like that. Magic wand wave, done. Didn't take any effort at all, did it? So a few fingerprints to wipe off, mainly on that one. But otherwise, we're done as far as that goes. Everything's lined up pretty good. We were a bit tight on this side here. It was anyway when it came in before I did these resonators. So despite giving it a tweak to make it wider, it didn't really seem to be interested in that. So it got another tweak with the porta power, and it was better, but still not really moving like I wanted it to move. It seemed to be determined to rub against the diffuser. So the diffuser got just the slightest little tweak, which I will correct. But these are in here. They're very, very tight up in there. Extremely tight, but they don't hit. You can jiggle it around quite a lot and it doesn't hit. So we're good. Hopefully that's problem solved. I've managed to create a little bit more room at the front here in a couple of places. So that's the guts of the exhaust system now. It's 3-inch downpipes, expanding downpipes, 3-inch pipe to just in front of the resonators there. The first ones reduces down to 2.5, some relatively short resonators, 400mm long ones, and the mufflers on the back. That should do it. If that's too noisy, well, pass. I can't help, can't fix it, because we'd need to put a factory exhaust back on it to resolve it at that point, and that you just can't do that with a 400 kilowatt car. So hopefully that's good. Now we're back in here mucking around with Skitty again. So what we're doing here is some anti-theft type stuff and things. There's another battery going in the car to run something else. So there's a couple of ways of setting up an auxiliary battery for something. You can do it with diodes, you can do it with relays and all sorts of things. We've got a Link ECU sitting here, G4X. It's got a whole heap of things that it can do, and we've got some spare inputs and spare outputs. So we'll be using those things, and our anti-theft stuff and things will involve the ECU. And it's going to make it absolutely impossible to steal it unless you know a few things, including some codes and how to get in there and do stuff and things. What I've done for our battery backup side of things, this relay here is all set up, programmed inside the ECU, so that relay doesn't get turned on until it sees more than 13.5 volts. So we can turn the key on over here. There we go, the fuel pump ran, you could hear the key, and you can see that test light, which is actually plugged into the lead that comes out of that relay, and it's not going. It's not hooked up yet. It's only when it sees more than 13.5 volts. You'll see it actually turned off there very briefly just after the car started, and the voltage dropped down for a second when the engine was running too low, so it turned it back off, and then when it's come back up to idle, she's on. So that side of it's done. We'll go and hide a battery somewhere. I can't really tell you what we're doing with the rest of it because it'll give the game away and people might be able to figure out how to pinch it. And then I've got to put all this skiddy back where it's supposed to be nice and tidy again. Alright, car's all finished, everything's in, all our secret stuff and things. That's GPS tracker. It's not that secret stuff. You'd be struggling to find it quickly, which is all it needs to be. Anyone can steal a car and rip it to pieces and take any trackers and throw them in the bin and all that sort of stuff. But it should take you a bit of time, hopefully, to find this one. But anyway, while it was here, before it disappears, I just thought I'd have a look at the logs and see if I could see what had been going on with the alternator that had failed. And sure enough, our logs and our lovely G4X ECU, linked G4X Extreme ECU, shows perfectly that we had an alternator that was pretty unhappy. We just caught this one, and there's a few after this where it has obviously gone even further unhappy. But at this point in time, you can see that she's thrashed. Look, she's absolutely thrashing the car that was just over 4,000 RPM. How dare she drive a car that can only rev to 7,000, and she's wringing its neck to 4,656. Oh, you thrashy person, you. Anyway, so you can see that the alternator's going rather unhappy. That's 14.2 volts there. We should be seeing a little bit more than that perhaps, but anyway, it's dropping down to 14 volts with higher RPM. So it was clearly not a happy camper, and we can see through the log that it continues down this path of failing. This looks to me like diodes on the way out with this sort of carry on. So yeah, it gets worse at some point. What is all this? You know, so it was definitely on the blink, on its way out, and at some point in time, ECU log file download. Let's go about here somewhere. That'll do. Let's download that one. It'll be a little wee short one. There might not be any voltage at all at that point. Yeah, just stick that in there. Open that up. Let's have a look. Well, might be too late. Yeah. See, at this point, it's not charging. Well, it's trying, isn't it? Right? And it's doing all sorts of funny things to everything else. What's this? What's going on here? Engine speed. So it's not running, actually. Actually, in this log. Who knows? No, I don't know what I'm looking at here. This might be the battery, might be on the charger, I'd say. With the key on. That's interesting. Never mind. Never mind. Don't worry about that. Who knows what's going on there. So anyway, the moral of the story is we found it. We've proven that it was on its way out while she was driving it down the road. We knew that. She said that. She is a cat's mother, isn't that what they say? Anyway, job's done. It's fixed. Hopefully we won't have those problems anymore. We did have a couple of tiny little fluid leaks. 300ZX is full of hose clamps everywhere, and you just get that after a little bit of time and use. The hose clamps need retensioning, so you'll put something together and it'll do a few hours of use, and then it'll need a bit of a service, a bit of a follow-up, and then you'll be all right. It'll go for ages until something else breaks. All right, well, until it breaks something else and it has to come back, that's it for this one. So thanks for watching. Catch you later.